I wanted to start by asking you about daily practices. If you have any. We said before there's an interview with Luciano online where you talk about working with an archive specifically, and you said in that you had some daily practices. So, what are your daily practices at the moment?
I believe in building environments or practice, like where your practice can happen. And aside from many things, extra musical, like sort of drip into my practice. And one is like running. I run because I'm having good ideas running. It's like a very good way of developing flow and sort of having something very compelling to do while your mind do this kind of precipitations of things. Like so you just pick up things and you say, okay, I can work with this. And you go home, you write down, and you work on the synthesizer to see if the idea was right. You know? And so one of the things that I use is running. Another thing I'm developing at the moment is like drawing the same stone every day, or most of the days, if I remember to do it, or if I have the time of doing it. And while I'm drawing, like can be like a minute thing, can be a 20 minutes thing. Like I see what happens to my mind. Or stupid thing like probably embarrassing watching and rewatching every season of Game of Thrones. Yeah, getting very bored. I can repeat by heart and see what happens while you are in that thing. No? Yeah.
Is it always like repetitive practices? Do you think is that? I guess a practice is repetitive in a way. So like. But you always find yourself performing the same action, even at home, like over and over again.
I mean, they change over time. Like when I started, I was saying before, like I started my, let's say, public, like practice, like in 2001, I guess. And over the years, this thing has changed. And also I have learned what works and what not. And yeah, there are many chunk or things that repeat themselves for a long time, just to pick up something that doesn't repeat itself, like a new idea. So things like, yeah. I don't know if is it clear what I, yeah.
On the running
Yeah.
practice,
Yeah.
could you break down what that inspired state is, and maybe play us an example of a piece that came from that?
I don't have it here with me, but there is this 7-inch yellow, which is the first thing that I recognize coming out of sport. When I was 28, like 2008, just to place this thing in place, I started practicing Muay Thai box for that. And I remember this thing of inserting in your life something very compelling and challenging, because I was like, I never done any sport in my life. At some point I said, okay, I want to do this thing, and sort of becoming good at it. Like, and I saw like the quality of the ideas changing, even the vibe that those ideas had. And one is this: the first thing that happened, I was surprised at seeing what was the thing was yellow. This 7-inch, unfortunately I don't have it, which is very dynamic, something that wasn't there before. A lot of panning, very high pitched stuff, and yeah, like it was like something new. I said, oh wow, this sports can do this thing to my music, no? Yeah. So yeah, and to describe the thing is a 7-inch, or it has inside like 4 or 5 pieces, I believe, like I don't remember if 4 or 5, and each piece is made out of an object. So I play with an object, I record it, and I play the results and layer them in a stereo field. Yeah, that's very simple. I used to do this practice of making pieces out of an object, like sort of exhausting the qualities, what an object can say, at least to my ears. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like having a daily practice is exhausting something to see everything that it can say.
Yeah.
There's I just want. Have you got willy-nilly with you?
I don't
Oh,
think
no.
so. Yeah, I
No.
haven't any code. But we can talk about that.
Yeah,
right?
there's a CD by Luciano called Willy Nilly, and I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing this before. Do you mind if I explain
please.
what I understand it?
Yeah,
It is. So you performed a concert, and
in Nantes. Yeah.
and enjoyed it a lot. But when you got the recording, you weren't happy with.
No, actually, I was very happy, but the person of the label, Giuseppe Gelasi, my advice is go and search his work. Like, he is amazing. He's been constantly putting out music of other people and his music, and it's absolutely great. Go and search it. But he was like the first person that told me, I want to release your music, and Willy Nilly was the second release they put out. So I made him listen to this thing. He said, the piece is great, but it sounds shit. And so out of desperation, I said, okay, I'm gonna do it again. And I copied every single bit of the piece, and like listening and re-listening and re-listening and re-listening, and put it back as I thought it was. The piece is like slightly different because of course there are things that you cannot do. Like the recordings were made like in a boat, so like the kind of environment is not.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm able to do. Probably you can do it, but it's not something I can do.
But so if I understand right, you took each of the, I guess for context, at this point you were performing with pre-recorded material.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And diffusing it in a space using your body, like.
No, actually it was like a really static
Stationary.
thing. I was on a mixer with like, let's say 4 CD players with different CDs
Okay.
and cassette players. So
Yeah.
it was like really like an electroacoustic diffusion.
Okay. And then you took the same recordings and relayed them out on a computer to recreate the performance.
Yeah.
Which I think there's something really cool in that, like remaking a performance that you've done to have a different audio quality.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's something that I think about a lot when I listen to what you do is audio qualities, which is something you say all the time, which is audio qualities, not quality. And in my due diligent research, there's an interview where you say, I'm going to find the exact bit, because this was one of the things I wanted to sort of talk to you about, and I think it's kind of interesting in the context of being here, because I think it's something that I've tried to talk to at least a few of you about. You say in this interview, to do what I do, I have to create a fabric, the flesh of the world that I want to make emerge. I use media as effects. So I guess this kind of relates to that thing of, so using media as effects, as in using tape players as effects, and using different recording devices to get the qualities of the recording devices, right? And
Yeah, in my mind it's like, I mean, the first example that comes out is like imagining like a film that wants to mimic the 50s, let's say, no? So you start to pick up like dresses that are like from the time, like the cars from the time, or buildings, way of moving, gestures, and you build a word that has those sort of qualities. Talking about my CDs, like the qualities that I need is something. The qualities that I need is something that doesn't exist. It only exists in my mind. Like I see these characters as where do they come from? And I build a word that for me is the word that where they could fit. So yeah, you give all the rules of the word, like gravity, colors, weather, phenomena, Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably is not transferred in a CD, but like the starting idea is that. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we can listen to 9 enclosures,
Yeah.
because that's kind of like an example of
Yeah. I
this
think
sort
it-
of working method, right?
I think it is. Yeah.
So let's listen to some of the work, and that might give some context to
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
I'd like to intervene.
Please.
And say that the music playing in the cafe is annoying me.
Yeah, I was
And
thinking that part of the word.
Do you mind if I ask them to turn it down, or would you like me to leave it up?
Up to you, really. Like,
What's your preference as an artist?
I mean, like if you want to, if you can, it's not like something that annoys the people outside. I really accept whatever it comes.
All right, so
Yeah.
whilst I do that, maybe you could talk a little bit about performance spaces where there is that kind of sonic contamination. And I say contamination because last week Seymour Wright talked about sound contamination and different sounds touching each other, and about how he's very fond of that happening.
Yeah, okay.
So I'd quite like to open that discussion.
Do you want me to wait for you while you...
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm quite open as well, actually. Like, it's not like in a piece like this we listened to were like 5 pieces out of 9. Of course, it has its own. The CD has its own thing, like the contamination. They are already inside the pieces, and I prefer to have them as dirty and clean as they are. No? And but yeah, in a performative space, I would say that I'm quite open. Like there is nothing that you can do. Things happen all the time, and you have to deal with them. And actually, my work is becoming more and more involved in this kind of accepting things and making them become part of the art and piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because whilst we were listening, Eka said like, "Oh, should we ask them to turn it down?" And I was kind of going to ask the same thing when we stopped listening. It reminded me of we played a gig in the project space, which Seymour mentioned last week, which was a space that used to be right near Cafe Otto, which backs onto a bar. And I remember watching you perform this piece where you were walking in a line and dropping a stone. I think.
2 stones.
2 stones.
With the cassette players.
Yeah.
I remember.
And it was a really busy room. It was like maybe like 40 or 50 people in the space, but that was like the amount of people that could get in the space if you were like shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching you do it and hearing this like in the background. And afterwards,
yeah, I think it was more like a pop song with really heavy basses. Yeah, bass. Yeah.
And afterwards, you said you loved it, and that's what I thought of just then. And yeah, I think this is like, yeah, could you talk a bit more about when you arrive at a space? What do you do when you arrive at a space to perform?
What do I do? If I know the space, I grew up in the project space. I spent so many hours in that place because it was, for me, Louis Rice was the base, and where we were rehearsing pieces. So it's a space that I know very well somehow. So it's sort of have a memory of it that projects things into my ideas without having to be there. Like the piece was sort of. The piece in particular was sort of pre-thought before getting to the space. The musical side was a surprise, but also the piece contemplates sort of how you stay in a space, what's the perception of the time that you have, and when you put some music, it's very, like, I didn't know the piece, but I guess most of the people that were there knew the piece very well. Like, I guess it was a famous pop song, no? Yeah, so what it does, the piece to my piece, like, is playing with the time of the piece per se. So it's like another layer that can be useful. Like it can shows me things that I didn't know about the piece, which is like welcome. Like is why I'm having this conversation instead of having a talk while I'm projecting things and saying things about my work, because it's the only way to know a bit more about what I do, using your intelligence as a trigger for mine, no? Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. And good luck as well.
Echo what Luciano said when you went outside was that he's I mean, maybe I'm about to misquote you 5 minutes after you say it, but that he's started to accept these sort of things into the performances and into the pieces, and that's becoming part of what you think about him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting talking about the Cafe Otto project space, which is closed now, because I think that I think of it like a watermark on a photograph. That so many people who worked in that space had the PA from the bar next door bleeding onto their work.
Yeah.
And I think it influenced a lot of people at the same time. to work with background music, not just background noise or sound, but recognizable popular music.
Yeah. But sorry if I interrupt, just because it's there. But my work deals with history music. Like I feed into the thing. Like my work talks about music, making music per se. Like so, it's sort of, it's not always like that, but it's an element that is welcomed when this thing can be welcomed. Like it's not all of it. It's not that I'm happy all the time. Like there are pieces like the piece that you saw at the Pushkin House. That could be problematic. Like I did part of the piece. Just to introduce the piece, is like a 2 hours long piece where I just play a clicker using a scheme like a grid or numbers, and there is a recording of me playing. I play the left side of the piece, and the recording plays the right side of the piece, which is more or less the same with different timing and rhythms. And it happened recently. Like I was doing a chunk of this in a museum in Italy, and somebody, like an artist, decided to record my piece and play it back in the room while I was doing it. Of course, I accept the thing, like saying, what can I do? Like I have to carry on, because for me it's a task. I cannot interrupt and say, please don't do it, at least during the piece. But of course it's problematic because you blurred the edges of the pieces, the elements that I want you to be clear. But by the same token, there's nothing I can do. Like you take decisions, and I take mine. Mine was to carry on. Hers was to play back parts of my pieces, on my piece. I'm not gonna. What can I do? Like.
Did anyone present challenge her behavior?
There was a composer, Marco Baldini. He has a couple of CDs recently. He released a couple of CDs with another town, and he said to the person, "You cannot do this," because he's a quite sensitive guy. He's like he recognized my work as he was his work. Like I'm playing a clicker, but it could be a violin, so you don't play back a violin during a Mozart concert. No? But it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to put the piece in a room, starting, and carry on till the end. Like then it's like out of respect. Like now you could play a song. What can I do? Like I just wait for you to be satisfied.
Yeah, it's in it. Oh, did you want to go? It's interesting that you say that, because I remember seeing Lina Lapalita give an artist talk here many years ago, and she played footage of her going to free improv gigs at Cafe Otto and playing along to them on the violin, and sort of discussing, I guess, the politics of that action. And I was recently at a gig at Cafe Otto to see Rodri Davis, and there was someone stood next to me fiddling with like metal bracelets, like very obnoxiously, along with the music. And so I moved, and he followed me. And then I moved again, and luckily he didn't follow me that time. But I realised it made me wonder about cultural social behaviour. You know, I felt a pressure to be polite and not tell him to shut up, only to move away. And I'm wondering, with you being from Sicily, and having lived in various places, if you've noticed differences in people's response to your work.
Oh wow, that's a chapter of my life. We could do a time like 4 or 5 hours.
That's good.
Like I actually have a story about like I have a situation that sort of made me think, okay, probably there is a field to explore here that wasn't touched, at least by me. And So I'm doing this concert in a festival in Palermo, and my concert is like a sample. Like I have a note track on my table. In the middle of the room is gonna be a diffusion. But with me, I just have a plan B with me, just in case my sampler doesn't work anymore, or you never. I don't know. Your fingers stop digiting, and basically I start playing, and all the people like there were islands of people chatting, like all the time, like nothing could stop them. So I had this little, I don't remember the name of the bird, but it's like in Italian it's tordo. I can Google it. Like it's an animal that does sort of very high pitch sound, and it's like there is this animal call they use for hunting that mimic the same sound, like just moving like a screw inside a piece of wood. I had this thing with me, and I start using them, the talking people, as a prompt, and to play this thing. So I was going like behind the old man that is talking to his daughter, playing this thing, and all the audience was moving the attention to the thing happening, like because you are in a room completely silent, and you single out somebody and you say, this person is talking, and you move this thing, and the person at some point, this person, because it's easy, so they said to me, could you please move somewhere else? I'm talking to my daughter. I said, yes, but I'm playing a concert, and so this thing carries on, and somebody starts talking in the other part of the theater. So I go there, I do the same thing, and something happens and this thing carries on for 30 minutes till all the room was absolutely quiet, because at some point you are scared to be part of this thing, no? Like this multiplication of stages, like where the attention is not the performer anymore, but it's you, the performer, and you have a person who is following you with the bracelets. No? So yeah, I consider that piece a bit of a starting point for everything I do now. Like of course that was an extreme situation. I was lucky I had this thing with me, but yeah, that's a funny story too.
It's happened to me before, where you're playing and everyone. I was playing in a garden, and everyone was. I don't think people had realised that I started. And I tried to get louder and louder, which is not something I really do normally. But I was like, I think I was in a bad mood. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to turn everything up. And still no one would stop. And then I did a similar thing where I had these buzzer circuits, like a loud whining tone. And I started putting them on people's tables to see if that would have this effect. It didn't. People were just putting plant pots on top of them and burying them in the ground.
Yeah, but I was at this, and they were looking at you like with evils as well. They were, as if someone had brought something to your table, and they're like,
yeah, they were doing the same thing to me. Like in a situation in Palermo, like it could explode. All the things it could exploded in a fight. Because it's like. I mean, not that there are good, bad people or violent, but it's like the blood is it gets the situation can get warm really quickly. But luckily, I was confident on myself because I was training for an interclub a month before. So I was quite fit. I said, I'm gonna do it. If it happens, it's part of the show, no? Like, I'm gonna have like a massive fight inside the theater in Palermo.
Do you? I guess because I've been at a lot of your performances now, I think. And do you find? I mean, I've never really witnessed it, but have you found throughout the time that you've done them that you get these kind of reactions from people? Do you feel like people are softening a bit? I think the worst one I ever saw was you tried to lead somebody across the room and they just looked at you and went, no. And it's funny because I think I've talked to people about what you do before, and some people are like, oh yeah, Luciano will come right next to you, and I never see what you're doing as being like confronting or aggressive. It never feels that way.
It's just a piece,
But
I mean, the bartender takes you a coffee on the table. It's the same thing. And take you and bring you a sound. Like it's just a thing that I do. It's like there is nothing behind. Like there is no intentional confrontational side of it on it in it. To it. But anyway.
Yeah, but people don't necessarily order the sound the way they order the coffee.
Yeah, but you entered in an agreement, like that is the music agreement. Like I'm a performer, I'm gonna play music, and that music will have its own rules. Like we are here, we are having the conversation. You're gonna give me question, I'm gonna give you answers, and people will do the same or listen to it or go away because it's another thing allowed in the situation. Yeah, but for me, the performative space, the space of the music. The space of the music has its own roots, like.
Yeah, and that's an important part of your work, right? Is that it's music. It happens in musical spaces with musical formats. You're not. I mean, you may have probably have at some point in your life performed an action, a performative like action, musical action in public. I don't know, but as far as I know, you perform in musical spaces, so.
Yeah.
As an audience member, you're kind of consenting.
No, I don't have anything. Like at the beginning of my career, career, if we can call it career, like whatever I'm doing, I was doing performances. Like aside from the fact of making music with other people or on my own, I was also making actions without any music intent. Like. And of course, there are certain actions were planted into normal situations where something happens and you witness to the thing, but we're always, I don't know the right word. It wasn't anything like, it was like just a glitch on on the situation, not something that is gonna affect your way of living in the moment or whatever. Like just a thing that you say, oh, am I right? Am I seeing the person doing the thing? And one of these pieces, I was probably 25, and I asked a friend of mine to dress as a train worker, like somebody who works in the station. So I had the old uniform and stuff like that. I was like a white collar guy with a suit, with a luggage, going to take a train in the train hall where you at the time and stuff like that. And this guy like glued my shoes on the floor. And I stayed there like, I don't know, 1 hour with this guy, like with super glue, glued me on the floor. And I was just a guy going and taking a train. But there is nothing, like I didn't stop anybody saying, can you please help me? Or it's just a thing that happens. Like as the fact that somebody drop a bag or, I don't know, you lose your glasses. So, yeah.
I've actually just remembered that I did once hear about a performance you did that is maybe a bit antagonistic with Louis at Luff Festival.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could tell everybody about this.
Well, we did a couple of pieces.
I'm thinking about the one with the security one.
Oh yeah, that's.
Do you want to talk about that? Or
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, let me picture it, like because it's like a few years ago. It was just before, after the pandemic. So like, as each of us had done in the moments of our history, collective history, there were a lot of cues with how do you call these stands that you put with the?
It's like crowd control, like barriers.
Yeah. And so at some point I was waiting for my vaccine, and I saw this empty room with all this thing like laid down. Like I said, wow, this is a piece. So we can work with it. So we started talking about the idea of making a piece out of it, and we were just controlling the queue. Like there was a queue at the festival. The festival has two sides. One is underground music, and the other one is underground films. And there was the last night. There was the award of the film festival, and we were controlling the queue. So people with the tickets had to wait for us to make them pass and enter the room, and we were deciding like arbitrarily who could pass or not. I'm not gonna tell you the rules, but like if you have something specific that fit our idea, our rules, you could pass and go and see the movies. Otherwise, sorry, you had to wait. And and they stayed there forever. Like, you know, it's like 4 degrees, 2 degrees, winter, and super cold. And we were doing this thing. But the other thing, we were living the same situation. I was waiting for the queue to be finished, and yeah, probably that is quite confrontational.
Yeah.
So this links me to a point that Ethan made last week towards Seymour. I'm now realising there's some connections maybe between the two of you.
Yeah.
Where Ethan said that he and some friends went to see a show and the friends left because it was loud and unpleasant.
Yeah, but your friend did the same thing with my piece.
Yeah.
So, which was very, very quiet.
Yeah.
So what's the middle way for your friend?
My friend didn't leave in the middle of yours. Oh, sorry. My friends didn't leave in the middle of yours. They just didn't like it.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess and Seymour.
Send your greetings to.
Don't tell him where they live.
No, I did. I liked it.
And Seymour's response to Ethan's point was, you know, firstly, Cafe Otto has big doors and you can leave whenever you want, so I'm not doing anything cruel.
Yeah.
And I was thinking afterwards about this idea of cruelty in a performance, and Ethan was asking specifically about risk and considerations of risk, not only towards your hearing because of like decibel levels, but also to reputation.
Mine or?
The performer's reputation of people not liking what's happening. And so I then was thinking a bit about how much freedom an audience member really has in these situations, and that when you do go to a concert, I feel you do enter into a contract of some sort,
Yeah,
even if it's just one of
there is an
etiquette.
agreement, like it's invisible, and it has probably millions of different rules, and every piece has its own rules. And of course, there are at some point you have to use your own imagination to figure out what are the rules of the piece. And like going back to the artist that recorded my piece while I was doing the clicking piece and played back. She, in her word, what she did was a cool thing to do. Like, and of course there is this thing that can happen every time, but it can happen in every situation. Like even in an hospital giving birth, I don't know, like the, you know.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Like you know, like somebody, like I don't know. Let's say I was born. Like it didn't happen. I don't know the story. Like let's say I was born and my father passed out while my mother was giving birth to me. It's something that you shouldn't do, but you know, the kind of things, like things happen. And,
Shall we listen to another piece?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, it could be. Have you got one that you want to play, or can I
Yeah.
can I make a request?
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know. It just came out like that. I'm gonna play a bit of this thing that I love. Is a Walter Marchetti piece, and the name is Per la sete dell'orecchio. That means for the first of the year. And,
Is that the first of the year, or the
the
ear?
f-
Oh, the ear.
Yeah, the year. Yeah. Thank you. this makes my point. Like and yeah, you can carry on. Yeah, the piece goes on for 28 minutes. It was recorded in 1981. Yeah, I guess it's just Walter Marchetti throwing stones in a pool inside a cave. I don't have any other information about this piece, but I think it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, it kind of I guess leads to a bit of a question. That's again sort of related to some stuff Seymour spoke about last week, but or maybe like touches on a similarity. But could you talk a little bit about the importance of other artists' work to you, or like to use to misuse Seymour's word, a tradition or something, you know, like because you have performed other artists' work at many times, and actually you, before everyone came in, Luciano was showing me a list of, I mean, I feel like we should share this list at some point, but this chronological list of things he's done since 2001, and I was surprised by some of them. But even in that, there's lists of other artists' work who you've performed. Walter Marchetti being one of them.
Yeah, Walter Marchetti has been present more than once.
Maybe you could talk a bit about why that's important to you to perform pieces written or composed by other artists.
I mean, I guess it's for everybody. It's like that. I probably am wrong. You should tell me if you can relate to what I'm gonna say or not. But I guess when you perform pieces for other people, you learn a bit more about what you like and you don't, and it's a very good way of getting close to somebody that doesn't exist anymore. Like Walter Marchetti, I didn't have a chance of meeting him, it had done consistently works that told to me in a really deep way. Like I cannot name one that I say I don't like that work. Like I can say it's not something I want to do in my life, but like I respect it. Especially all these acoustic things like La Caccia or this piece or the piece that is in the other side of this record where the name is Song for John Cage, where he reads very slowly, like it looks like the pace could be every 1 minute he says a word of a text that he wrote about chaos. Like every time that you have an opportunity to provoke chaos, just do it. Just this thing that says this thing. And I guess the importance is that getting very close to people that you love, and I don't know, it's just a huge way of making contacts.
Yeah, and I'm gonna fan it. Oh, sorry, no, please.
And just because it's not name dropping, but just to give respect to the people I've been performing. Like Robert Bozzi is one. John Cage, I performed Fontana Mix for a year. I was touring with Enrico Malatesta. He was playing a percussion piece, and I was playing Fontana Mix. And Walter Marchetti, I did this piece that I just said, Song for John Cage. And La Caccia, I had a quartet of electroacoustic music, and we performed Robert Ashley, She Was a Visitor. And what else? Alvin Lucier, I'm Sitting in a Room. These are the names I've touched, like the people that I touched during my life.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for their work.
And maybe we can. I think we're pretty close to questions, and I know that Ethan's got a question that we'll leave some time for. So maybe the last thing we could play and talk about a bit is again you performing other things, and it's the Animal record. Have you got it with you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because this record is amazing. I love this, and I think it'd be really nice to listen to it for a bit, and maybe if you feel like talking a bit about your relationship to why you made it, or
sure.
Animals in general,
Yeah,
and
sure.
then maybe we'll do some questions with everybody.
What's the title?
Very cheap, non-human animal imitations. And cheap, I mean cheap. Mosquito.
hindrance. Sheep.
Maybe we just.
Sorry.
I mean, I could listen. No,
Yeah,
I
but
could
cool.
listen to this all the way through, and I think I've just tricked you into. I've always wanted to listen to that with in a room with
People.
more than two people.
Yeah, it's the first time for me as well.
I guess I want to know a bit more about your relationship to animals, because in a way, I was sort of thinking about it when we were listening to Nine Enclosures as well. It's like animals, and I could think of animals as the perfect task-based action performance, like watching them, if you're watching them. But that's quite a voyeuristic way of thinking about animals, actually. Like, just to watch them performing tasks. And I don't know, maybe you could just talk a bit about
Yeah, sure.
animals and
I tell you, the piece, the whole piece, was born by a reaction to comments about my work, like a bit like what you're saying now, like. So it's a bit like a joke, an in-joke between like works and people reaction to my work. Like a common thing, like I listened to Nine Enclosures was, they sound like animals, and I got it really a lot, like during my life, like whatever I do, it sounds like animals. So at some point I said, okay, I'm gonna give you what you want. And while I was working on the piece, on the piece is I mean, the genesis of the piece is like me sitting on the sofa watching YouTube videos of animals and trying to see if my voice could imitate the pitch and the what do you say?
Timbre, maybe?
No, like envelope.
Oh,
yeah, and envelope of the verse, the call that the animal does, and recorded very quickly without trying too much on a cassette, very old cassette player, and I recorded. The first one is good. We carry on. If I don't like it, I try twice. If it works, it works. Otherwise, I skip it. I go on with something else. And I'm an anti-speciesist. Like I'm vegan. I believe like animals shouldn't be exploited in any way. And I started to think about this work as an offensive work somehow. Like in the future, I would like to say, that guy did this thing that should have done. Like should haven't done. Like like the same way that you shouldn't kill somebody, you shouldn't imitate somebody. Like. So I sort of picture this big frame. Well, in the future, somebody will complain about this record, saying that it's offensive. And about the structure. About the structure is like I completely copied the structure of certain animal recordings that were done like during the last 40, 50 years, especially from Jean-Claude Roche or Roche, I don't know how to say his surname, where he basically announced the animal that you're gonna listen, and then it will show you the animal by means of recordings. And that's just to keep it short, is the story of the record.
Yeah, it's like in an ethnographic style, I guess.
Yeah, very cheap and ethnographic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Could you just expand a little bit upon the potential future of someone calling it inappropriate? Could you go into a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, of course. I wish that in the future, like this whole thing of killing other beings just because we are hungry is gonna end. Like like this is something I would love to see in my lifetime. And I would I would accept if somebody say, "Oh, you should go to prison for the thing." Like it's such a thing that you shouldn't. It wasn't a thing to do. Like just like imagining being on the wrong part in the future that you really would like to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's clear what I mean. Like it's like really an utopian way of thinking. Like just a projection, like a big jump of imagination in something that probably will never happen. And
Yeah, because I mean, sort of by that, if you don't mind, it's okay. Because that there are these records by Eric Schmid where he impersonates different philosophers.
Giorgio Agamben.
Yeah. And I mean, they are quite offensive, like that Alan Badiou one. In a way, like people could see them as being offensive because he's impersonating these philosophers, but he's also sort of impersonating their accents
and also the whole stereotypical situation around the film.
Yeah, around
Giorgio Agamben, he just talked about pizza with a bad Italian accent.
Because I remember he was going to play one of the pieces at a concert at Cafe Otto, and he said, actually, I'm not going to play it because I think people will be offended. And people should apply the same logic, really. If you're offended by somebody, if you're concerned about being offended by somebody impersonating a human, why not an animal?
Yeah. I mean, that his thing is very close to what the reality is. Like we are talking about, like living on Mars. It's the first time that I do something that is somehow political. Like, and I'm happy to say because I really feel what I'm saying. Like,
Okay, maybe we can go into some questions, and maybe we'll just end up carrying on talking or whatever. But
Sure.
Ethan.
Yeah,
First.
so Ethan and I spoke yesterday, and because he's got quite a specific question, or maybe an extended question for Luciano, I suggested that we set aside a little bit of time for that and then open it up more broadly. So are you good to go? Yeah.
Yeah. Is this on?
Oh, sorry, it's coming. Should be on.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Well, thank you for asking me, Eka. I think I had a specific. There was a specific performance that you mentioned. I don't know if it has a title. I've just been referring to it as the clicking piece. But
it has a provisory title for these chunks I'm taking around Europe. Is N units out of 120, and you saw it. I think you saw it twice. So you saw like 60 minutes of it. It's a 2-hour piece.
right.
Yeah.
And then when you said that yesterday, Eka, I tried to formulate my thoughts about the piece into a question. And what I noticed is that I think I find your work to be quite obsessive, to be honest. Maybe you disagree. Tell me if you disagree. And then this process in the last day or so of trying to formulate a question felt kind of like obsessively reflecting on your work. So that felt kind of appropriate, maybe. But what I noticed is that there is this character to your work that I find kind of there's this unconventional kind of irregular use of time and space, especially, and I'm talking about this work in particular, where I remember really feeling like I was trying to identify a pattern between the recording playing from your phone and the clicks you were making.
Yeah, there are two separate things, just to.
Right. So I was trying to locate a pattern, or I was expecting it to be some kind of call and response, and not finding one. And I found it quite interesting that there are also in almost all of your work. I think there are quite long silences, and the silences to me feel like not so much like an interval, but actually like a bridge. And I think in those moments, and actually particularly after performances, I always feel that there's this almost like discomfort in the air, because it's like you've given us a riddle.
Sorry, there is what in there?
Discomfort. There's this kind
Discomfort.
of awkwardness, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Because you've kind of given us this kind of riddle, and you've like not really wanted to answer it. You've just kind of we've been listening with you and to you, unraveling this riddle, kind of obsessively. And you mentioned earlier with this piece at the festival where you were choosing arbitrarily people, right? And I thought this arbitrariness is quite interesting. Feels like it comes up again quite a lot, this sense of arbitrariness, or kind of like just tedious. There's this tediousness about what you do. And yeah, I'm wondering if you could just tell us a bit more about how this kind of unconventional, this kind of awkwardness, this obsessiveness, maybe you disagree, but that's how it feels to me, how it drives your work, and
How it arrived, you said?
Drives. How it drives your process. It feels quite essential to me.
Yeah.
Making people feel a bit uncomfortable sometimes, or awkward. Which I think actually maybe hadn't really thought about it, maybe does go back to Seymour Wright, also making people feel a bit uncomfortable.
Okay. I'll try to give you two answers, and then we can develop from that. I don't think it's obsessive, because if you think about a painter that puts like a stroke on a piece of whatever repeatedly in years, the gesture is always the same. The color changes, but the gesture is that. Okay, just to frame the thing. And what you are saying, that there is a lack of colors in those gestures I put in front of your eye or your eyes, or at least there is just one color that is that click. And so about the obsessiveness, this is. And another thing that I was thinking while you were talking is like Jackson Pollock's that takes off the titles from his paintings. And at some point, like in the history of Jackson Pollock, there is him that does titles. Those titles frame the work really well. Like in a way, you have like you see a title, you see a painting, you make a connection, your life becomes very, very easy, you know. At some point, it removes the titles, like just give numbers to the paintings, if I remember well. And I justify these things as abstract paintings confronts you. Like it's something that you don't need any other information. It's like you are in front of this thing, it's talking to you, and you have to deal with the presence of you and the object in front of you. And this is what I'm more or less trying to do. Like I'm not comparing myself to Jackson Pollock. I'm using it in like as a rhetoric figure to make the point. Yeah. And I don't know. Did I answer to the question somehow?
Yeah, I think so. But also, as I was saying, I always feel like there's this feeling I get of a riddle being posed that's not quite answered. So not more like you've left it open.
Yeah.
Still feels open.
And and I insist to get it open because it's important that when you see a piece of our life is ultra facilitated. Like you see something and you have already all the information that you need to see to read something. What I would like you to do is like stay in front of that, be uncomfortable, happy, because like you say you are uncomfortable or the situation is awkward. Somebody cries and say, it was beautiful. Like so, this thing that you are saying tells me more about you than my piece, about my piece, no? And yeah, what I would like is like just being present to and see what happens to you in relation to the weather phenomenon that is happening in front of you or around you. Yeah. Is it enough?
Yeah,
we
thank
can
you.
expand.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll come back to it.
Okay,
Possibly.
I'm happy to talk also out of this. Yeah.
There's actually I wrote down this quote. I might read. Is it okay if I read?
Sure. Yeah.
If I read as you.
Please, with my accent.
No. Because this came up in this sort of came up. Well, yesterday I was looking over some interviews you'd done to try and be like, what if I sit on stage and my brain goes blank and I don't know what to say to Luciano anymore? What if I forget how to talk to you? So, and this struck me quite a lot, and I think maybe it's relevant. Is generally speaking, there are no underlying concepts in my work. There are many questions raised, and even metalinguistic concerns in the sense that I like to let elements that talk about music emerge within an album or during a live set. For instance, if one decides to make a mic audible during a live set, one is talking about music. It's like keeping a Walkman. It's like keeping a Walkman that switches itself off in recording. To me, the process is part of the end process because I cannot erase it from my experience. But I'm not interested if the listener is aware of that or not, in the sense that if they get what I'm trying to say, I'm obviously happy about it because I get the impression that the level I try to achieve can be deduced. But if that's not the case, that's also okay. And I guess the reason it's coming up is because I spent a really long time when I first learnt about your work trying to figure out what was going on. Actually, maybe I didn't spend a long time. Maybe I spent like a couple of months listening to CDs over and over again, probably 9 enclosures, and being like, what is this about? Is it about a zoo? Is it about like... And then at some point I gave up because I was like, I don't understand what this is about. And then I started listening to it as music, and then I heard you said in a conversation once like that you were a musician, and I was like, oh wow, I get it. It's music. Like it's music. It's not like I didn't. And I guess that's the interesting tension, is that it's music, and then the people that everyone that witnesses it, or the people that are witnessing it, interpret it in a way that reflects them, and that, I guess this is the connection, is what you've just said, is like, but really the pieces are the music, I think.
Yeah, for me it is like, and I've been doing this thing like for 20 years now. So like this kind of discussion, not taking everything off this. It's always beautiful to talk about this, but like I keep hearing the same problematic that I think they've been there for hundreds of years. Like some people don't recognize music as music. Like if I took with me some music from the world, like and we are probably don't have time to listen to, like that if I play to my grandmother, I would say this is not music, it's noise, but it's traditional music, right?
Maybe we could just play like 2 minutes of that. I mean, it feels maybe disrespectful to play such a short moment of it, but the record you were playing earlier before people came in, because this is a I thought maybe at first when you were playing,
you want the other one? Okay.
Yeah, I thought maybe at first when you were playing it that it was like a really old piece of yours on synthesizer.
But it's not. Like,
and that was very wrong.
Yeah, it's a I'm sorry, I probably mispronunciate. It's a Mongar music. It's like an indigenous population from Vietnam, and the recording was made, I think, around between the 60s and the 70s. Is a Okora number 8, if you want to search for it. I'm sure there is on YouTube the same record.
The thing that strikes me, and maybe this also relates back to this discomfort in the audience, is one of the big differences between this recording and a recording that you've made is that you can hear other people in it. And actually, I guess culturally, when people come, this sort of relates a bit to maybe something Eka brought up earlier, but
I mean, this is very alive. Like I imagine this music played in a village for hours. People comes and go. They keep working out their own things. Like I mean, we should read the test, the accompanied release. But like, it's also another way of experiencing music, right?
Yeah, and I guess the cultural norm with the music communities that I guess we are all sort of related to is to sit quietly in silence. And maybe actually it's that that's creating the discomfort, is the environment more than the sounds themselves of the clicker or the sound of you imitating a wolf or playing a high frequency tone or
Can I jump in and
sure.
just on this theme of discomfort,
Yeah.
which I find really interesting. I know the importance of meditation and presentness in your practice
Yep.
and your life.
Yep.
And I'm reminded of years ago I did a 7-hour meditation with a guy who facilitated Zen practice.
Yep.
And I was told just to sit facing a wall still for 7 hours. And the only instruction was, when you feel pain, try to explore the sensation of the pain and try to forget that you're acknowledging it as pain. And when I think about seeing your performances, I think I go into a similar state of not trying to understand it, but just to receive it as sensation.
Thank you. I mean, it's very nice of you.
Yeah, this is just a response, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's what I was saying to Elton. Like, the thing is, like, certain reactions tell me more about who you are, or in this moment of your life, than about my piece. Like, it's like the piece does what the piece does, like piecing, probably. You know? Yeah. Yeah. And,
Shall we
yeah,
open it
yeah.
up? Does anyone have a question?
Vic's got a question.
Vic.
Hiya. Thank you for the talk. It's very, very interesting.
Can I ask you your name?
My name's Vic.
Vic.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I guess this actually follows on from Ethan's question, what you were discussing, and also kind of the lecture last week with Seymour Wright, is like, I'm really interested in this thing that you were saying about audience interruption, and also like Rory's example, where it's like both of those are quite like anarchic responses to like your performance, like especially one where like, I don't know, people are like taking your instruments and like burying them in the ground and stuff. That's like quite extreme, right? And I guess I'm kind of interested in like what you think as a person whose work is largely like public performance based.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel that your work kind of exists to like kind of in reaction to this kind of thing where, I don't know, like you're saying people come to see a performance and there's like a kind of unwritten contract, right?
Yeah.
There's this kind of like, there's a thing I notice in performance spaces very often is it's very hard to like divorce people of like the notion of like they're receiving a service, like they're paying for something so they get something back, right? Like, which I think gives people some quite like loaded expectations.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering if your work kind of exists, or how much like audience expectation or audience reaction, I guess, like informs your work. Like, say the thing where you're saying this person like recorded your work. Did you go away and be like, okay, like interesting, I could create something like sort of that plays on that? Or you just like, whatever, that just happened kind of?
No, in this specific case, I would say that, I mean, it annoyed me. Like, I cannot say that it didn't, but I respect the fact that she had this urgency of being part of the thing. But coming back to the beginning of the question, you're saying people are expecting something in return, because I think the problem on the thing is that everybody, like me included, aside from when I'm performing, we are thinking of music as something that has to entertain you or entertain me, and we project this thing to everything. Like, I'm reading this book, sorry, I don't remember the name of the author, but it's like, the name is Broken and Wild Sounds, and the page where I was yesterday was saying this thing that it sort of drops in this conversation very well. Like, I was saying that we interpret like birds singing like something as something beautiful and entertaining and stuff, while they are doing their own things, like they are exchanging information and stuff like that. And I see my work a bit like that. when I was saying to it and see it like as a weather phenomena. It's like something that is happening. It's not like I don't want you to enjoy or what. I mean, I'm happy if you enjoy it, if you had a good time. But the point is not that. The point is making something happen in a place where the thing wasn't before. Like and something that is new for me and for you as well. Like yeah, that's the whole. Just to simplify that. See?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That was
thank you
very
for
interesting.
this.
Is there another question from?
Am I sorry? Am I sorry? Oh, no,
I have a few questions around a similar topic.
Yep.
For all of you guys, because we touched on popular music a bit and different people's sensibilities towards different kinds of music. So kind of wondering why do people like popular music and why do some people like experimental music? It's quite a big question, but I guess I'm thinking of functionality and the function of that music in people's lives. Yeah, that's kind of the main question.
I guess functionality could be one of the possible responses. I mean, yesterday I was, of course, I had an imaginary talk with myself, with you. I didn't know your faces, so but I was imagining questions just to, you will see this answer coming to your question. And I was imagining my work normally people see it as performance art instead of music because there is a big movement, use of the space, and the sound is very little and small, so people don't recognize the film as the main elements, but as part of a series of elements. And then I was imagining, sorry Beyonce, but I was imagining Beyonce doing a massive show in I don't know, in a stadium or whatever, dancing, choreographing the film, and people singing along what she's singing. And I was thinking, why they don't do the same with me? What happens? I mean, it's clear what's happening. I mean, there is nothing to sing in what I do, but there is if you look at the mechanism of the film, there's been a movement of projections of these songs into people for months. People buy the air CDs, they learn it by heart. They embody the songs. They live things with those songs. They fall in love. They go do shopping, listening to this music in the supermarkets and stuff like that. At some point, they learn the music, and the choreography is just accessory. But the weight of the things is the same on the stage. But the thing that I own, or the piece, is bigger than what is in front of me. And I guess what happens in experimental music is that you don't have these big projections or information to people before a concert. Also because I don't know what I'm gonna do, possibly the same day I'm performing. Yeah, I know. It's not an answer, but I guess there's a bit of elements.
Yeah, it's definitely one element to think about.
But also someone did sing along to that performance by mimicking
in fact,
you.
while I was saying this thing, I thought, wow, she's very quick taking this thing, and
I'm remembering something that's kind of related to this that is also related to. I can't remember if it was you that you said this to,
it was me.
where I think. Can I tell what I remember and then you can tell me that I'm wrong, or maybe not? But I think you were asking Luciano about we were at Cafe Otto. I think we were stood at the bar. Maybe this is something, and I think you were talking about something. We were talking about songs, about you liking songs, and you said Does anybody mind if I swear quickly? Because I feel like it's
No.
an important. And you said one of my favourite musics is fucking Adele.
I would never use the word.
Really? Come on.
I'm joking. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And you talked about Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And this thing of songs, and I do think it's interesting because I think there's a divide between experimental music and pop music, and I don't always understand it because quite often pop music seeps into everything. Like something I think about a lot is one of my favourite bands, and maybe some of the music I listen to the most is the Stone Roses, which is maybe embarrassing, but I don't find it embarrassing. And I listen to the way the Stone Roses is recorded, and I hear all this stuff where I'm like, you know, I feel quite free when I listen to the Stone Roses, and I think about all of the elements that make me feel like that, and a lot of it is the way the music is recorded and produced, and it's not actually always the music that makes me feel like that.
But it's also what you did with the music. You have it inside, I guess. Like somehow
Yeah.
there is a folder or whatever with the thing that makes you feel in a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's there like before pressing play in a record, no?
Mm.
While me, there's no, you didn't have any information to access that experience before.
I don't know. Yeah. Was that the thing that you were thinking of?
No.
Okay, you go.
No, I was thinking about when you performed with Louis Rice as no PA on.
Yeah.
And it was a piece with crisps where the two of you would go to an audience member either side and
Yeah.
make like
Yeah.
noises. Was
Yeah.
it that?
Yeah, it was like a little, yeah.
Yeah, so in each ear you had either Luciano or Louis.
This kind of
And there was
early
a torch.
Panasonic stereophonic acoustic.
And it, you know, it's really, some people don't like it, but I loved it. And once you've endured the performance, you get given a bag of crisps.
Only if there wasn't no bad.
There wasn't a
There wasn't like I mean, it wasn't like a thing that you receive this thing because you endured that thing. Sometimes you receive it, sometimes not.
So you did me twice
And I gave
at
you
that
two.
concert. No,
Yeah.
you didn't. So the first time I listened quietly,
Yeah,
and the second time I started whistling,
yeah.
and then you didn't give me crisps.
So you got the answer.
So this raises in my mind the question of desire and reward with popular and experimental music. You know, I think popular music often pushes feelings of desire, things you want, and then rewards you somehow
Yeah.
through social connection or some sort of feedback
Mm.
to joining in. Whereas in that case, I wasn't rewarded for
Sorry,
joining
but
in.
I'm sure I gave you a bag after the performance.
I'd already had a bag, to be fair, but no, you didn't, and I could feel that you were annoyed.
Ah, okay.
That I Yeah. Pop music, I think, rewards you more often than
Luciano Maggiore, no.
Can I? I think maybe to try and focus on the question that maybe the words in popular, and maybe that word says it, is that popular music is part of a tradition or a lineage that you, in at least, well, each different part of the world has a different idea of a popular music, and you grow up with it, so you learn the language of it, and you learn the language of it as it develops. Whereas with experimental music, unless you have very particular parents maybe, or like very particular living situations, you tend to find it later on, and you have to learn the language of it. Like I've had to learn the language of loads of music I really love now. I think maybe the first time I heard it I was a bit like, not sure about this, and then I kind of stuck with it for some reason, and now I'll listen to it if I go to the supermarket. You know, sometimes I listen to you when I'm in the supermarket, and maybe I could sing along to one of your things.
But this thing, like you're saying, you have to learn a language or the experimental music. Like it's more compelling. I think it's more compelling than that because you have to learn the language of the person. Because I mean, I know what experimental music is, but you are an island inside of that ocean. That's where the people of that island talk only the language. You know, like and your music is like that as well as yours. And I'm sure yours is the
but
same.
mine is pop music.
Yours is pop music. Yeah.
Sorry, can I jump in?
Yeah, sure, please.
Please.
So, I'm trying to gather my feelings, but I have a sense with most music communities that there are shared codes and common codes. So beyond the individual islands of an artist within an experimental community,
Yeah.
there must be common codes as well, right, in which to understand each other. They might not be as largely understood as a more popular kind of music, but they might. There's still something there, like a strain or something.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll tell you more. Like my music changed when I came to London. No? Like when I was in Italy, we were mostly making there was a more or less small the equivalent of London. The musician that I have around now in London was scattered around Italy. So like imagine a big country with 25 musicians or something like that. And the music that we were developing was mostly developed for very small rooms, because we were playing like in a room with 8 people in front of us. Like you can really smell the audience, like that kind of thing. And our music was very, very small and quiet and stuff like that. Well, I arrived here and those roots weren't, and those things weren't enough anymore. I needed to upgrade my language to get to your ears. So I started to work out a way to make this, what I had inside, more accessible. But I think, I needed to find a compromise between what I had before and what could be the future of my music. You know? So yes, like every community has its own thing and it's quite recognizable. But I'm Italian, I talk with a Sicilian accent. That is clear in this room. But if I listen to your music, I know what you are doing. And I cannot place your accent, but probably you are from somewhere in the UK.
Ireland, yeah.
Okay, so probably in this room is clear what's, the thing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I could keep going, but I guess it's
Yes,
nice to
please,
open
please.
it.
We have
to people.
3 minutes left.
There's a couple of comments from the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just really quickly off the end of that, just want to add a comment where I find it interesting that you say you sort of leveled up. I feel like since I've known you, everything I've done has become quieter and quieter. And the first thing you said to me after you saw me perform for the first time was, I liked it, next time I'm going to turn the PA off.
Yeah.
And so like, I guess there's a back and forth that becomes like a common language. So.
Please.
Just to feed in a couple of things from the chat. Linda Rebecca is asking, is the book you referenced Sounds Wild and Broken by David George Haskell?
It is, yes. Sorry, I'm reading it, but I'm very bad at names. Like, and I have 7 books on my desk. Like.
No problem. And then Paul McGree just commented regarding the other conversation that hip hop and grime can be both pop and experimental, so the categories can shift and not be fixed.
Absolutely, yes. It's like there is porosity in this thing, like like pop music feed itself with a lot of things. Like if I listen to Beyonce without thinking that there is a Beyonce singing, I'm sorry if I keep talking about it just because I used her name before. Like I can, for me, it's music concrete. Like there is a lot of thing there. Like there is experimental music, like a lot of techniques the music concrete has used during the history of music, and it has that edge that is very familiar or like very easy to connect with, like, yeah. But yeah, there is an exchange, of course, like, and there is also in my music, like, there is some dust of pop music in what I do.
Yeah, I was just thinking as well, like, I guess we're at a point where pop music and experimental music are really like crossed over as well. Like somebody like Arca, for instance, who like I would have 8 years ago like very much considered as a part of a experimental music like category maybe in my head, and now I would maybe think of as pop music.
Yeah, but also if you think like Maxo Cream, like
Yeah.
Persona Tape, like the thing is music concrete. Like yeah, there is a yeah.
I think all music is experimental until it's been reproduced as well. Like I'm thinking about that Morton Feldman essay where he talks about artists are pursuers of freedom and experimentation, and then after them come the mimickers who are craftspeople, you know, who take the idea, refine it, make it better and reproduce it.
Yeah, that's what design does.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
I think it's past now, so we have to stop. But thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Yeah.
Yeah.